As you can tell from the title of my video, I wanted to come on here and share with you my story of how I got pregnant with PCOS. I was diagnosed with PCOS in October of 2016. Prior to being diagnosed with PCOS, my husband and I had been trying to conceive for about a year and a half. When conceiving naturally wasn't working for us, I decided to seek medical help. So I decided to make an appointment with my OBGYN and try and figure out why I wasn't conceiving. At my first doctor's appointment, she noticed that everything looked good. She didn't see any red flags and she didn't notice anything abnormal, but she did want to go ahead and send in some blood samples to the lab and get them tested and see what the results were. About 1 week later, she called me and let me know that the results were in and they indicated that I might have PCOS. But she was not 100% sure. So she wanted me to go in a second time and get the blood test done again, and the results came back and she confirmed that I did have PCOS. When she confirmed that I did have PCOS, she prescribed to me metformin, which was one of the things that I had to do in order to get pregnant. The second thing I did was change my diet. The third thing I did was exercise. And the fourth was track my period and ovulation. When I began the metformin, the symptoms that I had were vomit, heartburn, diarrhea, nausea, weight loss, and food aversions. Being on metformin is not fun whatsoever, but I knew that it was something that I had to do in order to get pregnant, and I was willing to do anything and everything I could. That brings me to the second thing that I changed in my life, which was my diet. I did a lot of research about what things to stay away from and what things to eat to try and help conceive. There's three main things to stay away from if you have PCOS. Number one are high glycemic foods. Number two is dairy products, and number three is caffeine. So high glycemic foods are things like biscuits, cakes, white rice, white bread, cereal, white pasta, anything with sugar in it, dairy products, milk, cheese, yogurt, and butter. And for caffeine, stay away from coffee and soda and alcohol. Basically, I stopped eating all of those things. I tried to cut them out completely out of my diet, and once in a while I would give into cravings, and I noticed right away that I would get very, very sick. But that's what would happen. I would eat a piece of pizza, and that night I would not be able to sleep because I was up with heartburn and vomit and nausea and stomach pain. So it was very easy for me to stay away from those foods because it would just make me feel so sick. It was hard to cut those things out, but I knew that I would benefit from it greatly. So I tried my hardest to try and stay away from the dairy. As far as caffeine, I don't really drink a lot of soda. I'm not a coffee person. I prefer tea. And alcohol was one of the things that I also cut out for my diet, which was also something that was a little bit tricky for me, but I knew that cutting out all those things were going to result in hopefully one day having a baby. So I wanted to do everything that I possibly could to avoid all of those things. Something else that I did to try and conceive with PCOS was starting to exercise. So I signed up with a soccer league, an adult soccer league, and an adult softball league, which all helped me maintain an active lifestyle. I was doing soccer once or twice a week and softball once or twice a week as well. And in 3 months, I lost 15 pounds, which I think was a combination of not being able to eat and being sick all the time because of the metformin. And the last thing was tracking my period. Before I found out that I had PCOS, I had downloaded a couple apps to help me track my period and track my ovulation. Those apps were My Days and the OVIA Fertility app. Both track your period and help you predict when your next ovulation will be so that you can try and conceive during those days. As soon as I started taking the metformin, I want to say 1 or 2 weeks later, I started showing signs of ovulation. So I decided to take an ovulation test and see if indeed I was ovulating, and right away the test came up positive. So right away I went onto my apps and I logged on there that I had a positive ovulation test on, I believe I was ovulating on day 23. And I was having 33-day cycles. Once I got that positive ovulation test, my apps were able to track my ovulation more accurately, and every month I could see that I was ovulating around the same time, which was really great because that's what my doctor wanted. She wanted the metformin to help me ovulate and start getting a regular period, which that happened right away. So that made me really happy because the medicine was actually working. So April 3rd was my 24th birthday. By then it had been 6 months since we were trying to conceive, but I wasn't getting pregnant. So my husband and I were getting really frustrated. We didn't know what to do. We were getting really discouraged because we thought it was gonna happen by now, and it just wasn't happening. So we just wanted to take a little break because the metformin was making me really sick, and I just wanted to not have to worry about trying to conceive for a little bit and try and feel a little bit happy again. After I stopped taking the metformin in April for, I want to say, like a week or two, I was waiting for my period to come, but it didn't. So I started taking the metformin again to hopefully just get a period, and it worked. I got my period and I kind of stopped taking the metformin again. On and off, like one day I would take it, one day I wouldn't, which is really bad, but that's what happened. And I noticed I had symptoms of ovulation that month too, even though I wasn't taking the metformin consistently. So it was already May of 2016. We had been trying to get pregnant for a total of almost 2 years and 6 months total of being on the metformin. So it was May 22nd, the day that I got my positive pregnancy test. I remember it was on a Monday. We went to have softball practice, and I noticed that I was getting really lightheaded, which was really strange. I had never felt like that before. And I was waiting for my period to come. It hadn't gotten here, and I had all the symptoms of a period. I had tender breasts, and I had cramps, which I had every single month leading up to my period. So I was just waiting for it to come. And I thought, maybe I'm pregnant. I should, go get a test just to make sure that I'm not. I already had a feeling that I wasn't, because, it had happened so many times before. Every month I would take a pregnancy test and I wasn't pregnant. So I told myself, just go get the test done, and once it comes out negative, then I won't have to worry about it. I can continue playing softball and not be worried about it. I stopped at Walgreens and I got a pregnancy test, and I went home and I took it, and at first I saw one line come up on the pregnancy test right away, and so I was like, oh, okay, it's negative, like I'm not pregnant, it's fine. Like we weren't trying anymore. I already knew I wasn't going to be pregnant, so it was fine. I wasn't upset, and I just kind of left it there on the counter. And the reason why I thought it was negative was because I usually get the tests that have the two lines that cross in the center, and that means it's positive, and if it's just the one line, that means it's negative. But then I look at the test again, and I read on it that it said no line means you're not pregnant, and one line means that you are pregnant. And I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. I instantly started crying, and I just couldn't wait for my husband to come home so I could tell him already. Maybe later I'll post the video of when I told my husband that I was pregnant, because my friends had actually came over that night and we were gonna have dinner together, so I had them record it, and they didn't know what was going on either. I just wanted them to record it for us, so I have that on video. If you guys want to see it, I can post it later. So I mean, everything that I did worked. The metformin, changing my diet, exercising, and tracking my period. I'm not saying that this is gonna work for everybody. I'm just trying to come on here and explain my experience, and hopefully it'll help somebody. So right now I am 25 weeks pregnant, and we are having a boy, and we are due in January 13th of 2008.